Good morning, students. Welcome to today's class. In our previous class, we have discussed elements and atoms and molecules. Hope you understood that properly. Today we are going to start. We will discuss compound and its characteristics, and we will discuss few examples of it, and also the difference between elements and compounds. But before starting our today's class, I want to remind you one thing, that the worksheets which we are providing, each teacher is providing one worksheet, uh, so you have to do that regularly. Do the worksheets, solve the worksheets properly, regularly, and give your attendance properly, because on these two basis we are going to assess you. Your internal assessment marks will be based on this two till the school reopens. So just keep that in mind. Okay, do that properly. So let's start our today's class. So this chapter, element, compound and mixture, chapter 3. So these are the points to be discussed today. Compounds, its definition, characteristics of compound, molecules of some compounds, and we will verify the characteristic of compounds, and then differences between element and compound. So what is the definition? What is compound? Compounds are pure substances formed by the chemical combination of two or more elements in a definite proportion by mass. That means when two or more elements will be combining together by chemical means, chemically they will be combined together and they will form a whole new compound. The compounds having just different properties of that. That means this point, you can see this, the properties of a compound are entirely different from those of its constituent elements. We will be discussing this later on. Compounds are made up of different types of atoms combined chemically to form molecule. So these are the compounds, or the definition of compound, we can say. So what is the characteristic of compound? It consists of two or more elements. When two or more elements will be combining together, we will get a compound. The constituting elements of a compound are combined in a definite proportion in every sample of the compound. What is that? The constituting elements of a compound are combined in a definite proportion in every sample of the compound. That means in a compound, the proportion of the elements, constituting elements, the proportion will be definite, or it's in a fixed ratio, the proportion will be there. The elements always will be in a fixed ratio or proportion. It is pure and homogeneous. So in a compound, we will see there is a single type of particle. Okay, in a compound, it's having a single type of particle, so it is pure, and as it's having same throughout its bulk or all over in the compound, its characteristics and its composition is same. uh, so it's a homogeneous substance. Okay, so homo means same, and it's having same type of component, and it's from anywhere we can collect the compound. Its characteristics and its constituent will be same all over, so it's homogeneous, it's pure and homogeneous. The physical and chemical properties of a compound differ from those of its constituent elements. physical and chemical properties of compound differ from those of its constituent elements. So the constituent elements having a different physical and chemical properties than that of its compound. So when we will get the compound from two or more elements, the compound's property, chemical and physical properties, will be totally different from that of its constituent elements. The components of a compound cannot be separated by simple physical means. Simple physical means like the process, simple physical process like boiling or evaporation or vaporization or freezing, like this. So by these methods we cannot separate the components of a compound. So for that we have to use the chemical methods, means which are not so easy to perform. Next, energy is either absorbed or evolved when a compound is formed. So during formation of a compound, energy change or absorption or evolution of energy is must. So these are the characteristics of a compound, and we will just taking an example, we will be discussing these things and these characteristics, then it will be more clear to you. See, these are some molecules of compounds. So first here we have taken water. Water is it's a very common substance. So here we can see in a molecule of water there will be one in this middle, there is a oxygen atom. This is an oxygen atom and two hydrogen atoms are there. This is a chemical bond, we will say. Okay, a bond which will join two molecule, which will join two atom. This is an atom of oxygen, this is another atom of hydrogen, this is an atom of hydrogen. Okay, so two atoms of hydrogen will be combining with a chemical bond with a atom with an atom of oxygen. So this bond is this is a chemical bond, and here two hydrogen atoms are combined together. Two hydrogen atoms are combined with a oxygen atom, with an oxygen atom, to form a molecule of compound. So here we can see two different kind of elements, hydrogen and oxygen. Two hydrogen atom is there and one oxygen atom is there, and we are getting a molecule of water. Now here we can see the proportion of oxygen and hydrogen is 1:2. So one oxygen atom is there and two hydrogen atoms are there. So the proportion of the elements oxygen and hydrogen is 1:2, and this proportion is fixed. From anywhere we can collect the sample of water. We can take the water from pond, we can take the rainwater, or we can take the water from well. From any source we can take the sample of water, but the proportion of oxygen and hydrogen will be fixed everywhere. So this is one important characteristic of a compound. The proportion or the ratio of the components, ratio of the constituent elements will be fixed. So from anywhere we can collect the sample of a compound, but the proportion will be fixed everywhere. The same thing we can see for carbon dioxide as well. This is a compound, this is a molecule of carbon dioxide. See, the middle one carbon is there. This is the formula. Okay, what is formula, that we will get to know afterwards. So this is the formula of carbon dioxide, CO2. So in middle here you can see one carbon atom, and these two red color atoms, these are oxygen. So these two oxygen atoms are bonded with a single carbon atom. Here two bonds are there, this is called double bond, Okay, so two double bonds are there, and these two oxygen atoms are bonded with a single carbon atom in this manner. Okay, so by here we are getting a molecule of carbon dioxide. Here also you can see the ratio of carbon is to oxygen is 1:2. So one carbon atom and two oxygen atoms are there, so the ratio of carbon is to oxygen will be 1:2, and this ratio is fixed. From anywhere we can collect the sample of carbon dioxide, the ratio will be same only everywhere. This is calcium oxide or lime calcium oxide. So this is, see this green color ball, this is calcium, and this red one is oxygen. So these two are bonded with a single with a bond. Actually there is a double bond. So with this bond, calcium and oxygen is attached together to form a molecule of calcium oxide. Here also the ratio is fixed. Here calcium is to oxygen, the ratio is 1:1. One calcium atom and one oxygen atom, so the ratio will be 1:1. Now come to nitrogen dioxide, this molecule. Here the middle one is nitrogen. Nitrogen is it's an element. So here one nitrogen atom is there and two oxygen atoms are there. So these two oxygen atoms are bonded with this nitrogen atom by this bond, by this chemical bond, and forming the molecule of nitrogen dioxide, NO2. So the ratio of nitrogen is to oxygen is 1:2 here. Now come to zinc chloride. Here the middle one is zinc atom. Zinc is a metal, and here two chlorine atoms are there. So here also this chlorine atom, one chlorine atom is bonded with this zinc with a chemical bond, and another chlorine atom is again bonded with this same zinc atom with this another chemical bond. So ZnCl2 is the formula of the compound zinc chloride. Here one zinc and two chlorine atoms are there, so the ratio of zinc is to chlorine will be 1:2. This ratio is again fixed for this particular compound. Now let us verify the characteristics of compound. Here we have taken water. Hydrogen, as we know, hydrogen is a non-metal, it's a gas. Okay, so here we have to take two hydrogen molecule H2. By this we will be representing the molecule of hydrogen. So here we have taken two such molecule. This is one molecule of hydrogen, and here in one single molecule of hydrogen there are two hydrogen atoms. See, you can see two. See, this is one atom of hydrogen, and this is another atom. This is one atom of hydrogen and this is another atom of hydrogen. So two atoms are there in a single hydrogen molecule. So this is a single hydrogen molecule where two hydrogen atoms are there. This is one atom, this is another atom, and again these two atoms are bonded with a chemical bond. Now like this, another molecule of hydrogen we have taken. So we have taken two hydrogen molecules. See, that's why we have written 2H2. By H2 we are representing only one hydrogen molecule, and here this is one H2 and this is another H2. That means here we have taken 2H2, two hydrogen molecule. So this is in gaseous form. Hydrogen is a gas, so in bracket we can write small g to represent the state of that molecule, or state of that substance we can say, or element. Here it's an element, so state of the element we can represent by writing small g in bracket. here we have taken one oxygen atom, see, one oxygen molecule, sorry. So one oxygen molecule is formed by two oxygen atoms. See, this is one oxygen atom and this is another oxygen atom. So two atoms are there in a single oxygen molecule. That's why we have written O2. By 2 we are representing the number of atoms present in a single molecule. We have done, no, we have learned about the diatomic, monoatomic, diatomic, triatomic molecule. So for this is oxygen is diatomic molecule. That's why we have written O2. In the same manner, hydrogen is also diatomic, so it is written as H2. By this 2 we are representing the number of atoms present in a single molecule of that element. So two hydrogen molecule will react with one oxygen molecule to form two water molecule. See, this is one with one oxygen atom. See, this red one is the oxygen atom. With one oxygen atom, two hydrogen atoms will combine. See, this is one hydrogen atom, this is another hydrogen atom. We have seen the structure of water earlier. So this is the structure of water. In middle there will be the oxygen atom, and in at two edges of this oxygen atom, two sides of the oxygen atom, there will be one hydrogen atoms. So this is the structure of one single water molecule. So in here in this reaction we have got two such water molecules. Okay, so this is one water molecule, this is another water molecule. So 2H2O we have written, two hydrogen and one oxygen. That's why we will be representing the water molecule like this, H2O. Okay, now see, in this reaction during the formation of water, hydrogen and oxygen, these two are gases. So from these two gases we are going to get water vapor. Okay, that's why we have written G here, and this vapor will condense and form water as liquid. So liquid water we are going to get, and in this reaction heat will be evolved. That means this is fulfilling the last characteristic of a compound, where during the formation of a compound, evolution or absorption of heat is mandatory. It's a must. So here we will be we can see that it's fulfilling this characteristic of a compound. Now see the properties of hydrogen. This is a gas, this is it's colorless gas, and oxygen, this is also a gas. So these two gases will form another after reaction, after chemical reaction, it will form a totally different characteristic of a it's holding a totally different characteristic of the substance. Okay, so during the formation of a compound, we are going to get such a compound which is having totally different properties than that of its constituent elements. See here, this is another example of a compound, sodium chloride, common salt or table salt, which we regularly use in our food. This is the sodium chloride is formed by reaction of sodium and chlorine. Sodium is a soft metal, it's a very reactive, and it's soft metal means it's solid. And chlorine is it's a gas, it's a poisonous gas we will say, and the color of the chlorine, you can see it's greenish yellow. Okay, so this is poisonous, it's having a very suffocating smell. So when these two will react chemically, they will form sodium chloride. Now this sodium chloride, it's solid, So from a solid, the reaction by the reaction of a solid sodium and a gas chlorine, we are getting a solid sodium chloride. It's a solid crystal, and this sodium chloride is non-poisonous. It's not having the that means in this sodium chloride, chlorine has lost its property. It's the poisonous property of chlorine has been lost here in sodium chloride. We are taking them in our food, and sodium is also lost its property. It's very much reactive, but sodium chloride is not that much of reactive in that sense. So here we are getting a totally different compound which is having totally different properties than that of its constituent elements. Now let's come to the third example. Here, during reaction between sulfur and iron, after the reaction we are getting ferrous sulfide. This is the compound. So sulfur, this is yellow solid, and sulfur can get dissolved in carbon disulfide. If we add carbon disulfide, this is a solvent. So this carbon disulfide can dissolve sulfur, and it will form a solution. And this is the property of sulfur, we will say, getting dissolved in carbon disulfide. It's a non-metal and it's soft. Now in this test tube we have taken iron dust we have taken, and we know iron will get attracted by magnet. So after mixing these two in this test tube, we have mixed sulfur and iron, and now we are going to heat this. So after heating, see before heating we can see the both the particles of iron and sulfur separately. These grayish particles are of iron and these yellow particles are of sulfur. Now after heating, when we will heat the mixture, we will get the black or gray substance which is ferrous sulfide. Now this ferrous sulfide, it will not get dissolved in carbon disulfide. That means here in this compound sulfur has lost its property of getting dissolved in carbon disulfide, and in the same manner if we bring a magnet to it, then it will not get attracted by the magnet. That means here iron also have lost its property. So both sulfur and iron has lost its individual their individual property in this compound. So here in the compound, the constituent elements has lost their property, and the property of ferrous sulfide is totally different than that of the sulfur and iron, which is the constituent elements of the compound. Now see the differences between elements and compounds. So elements are pure substances which are composed of only one type of atom. What are pure substances? The substances which are having only one type of particle in it. So both element and compound are pure substances, but elements are composed of only one type of atom, whereas compounds are substances which are formed by two or more different type of elements that are united chemically in fixed proportions. So both element and compound are pure substances, but in element we are going to get only one type of atom, but in compounds we will get different type of two or more different type of elements which will be united chemically or bonded chemically in a fixed proportion. Next, elements are classified as either metal, non-metals, or metalloids, and noble gases are also there. So elements can be classified in this manner: metal, non-metal, metalloid, and noble gas. But compounds are classified according to their bonds, which can be ionic, molecular, or metallic. That means this you have not read yet in this manner. So there are different kind of compounds which can be classified according to their bonds. The chemical bond we are saying no. So these chemical bonds can be of different types. It may be ionic, maybe molecular or metallic. So in this manner we can classify the compounds. Next, elements are represented by symbols and numbers. So the symbols we are using to represent each element. For example, sodium is represented by Na. Okay, like this, hydrogen is represented by H. So other symbols are also there for other elements, you know that. Next, compounds are represented by their chemical formula. For representing any compound, we have to use the chemical formula, which contain both the symbol of its constituent elements. Like for common salt, it's sodium chloride. So sodium and chlorine both are there. So we have to use the symbol of sodium as well as chlorine. So this is called chemical formula. So NaCl will be the formula for common salt. For in the same manner, for water we can say H2O, that is the formula, chemical formula for water. Next, elements, as only one type of atoms make up an element, all the properties of that element are represented by its atom. As in a single element there is only one type of atom, so the property of that element can be represented by its atom. Whereas in case of compound, the same type of molecules make up the compound. We know that that in a compound the constituent elements they lost their properties, individual properties. So for a compound the uh, basic unit will be molecule. So up to that only we can break the compound. Okay, so the unit of a compound will be, basic unit of the compound will be molecule, not atom. But for element we can say the basic unit of the element is atom, is an atom. See, elements cannot be broken down by chemical reactions, as elements are having only one kind of atom, one kind of particle, so they cannot be broken down by chemical reactions. Whereas compounds can easily separated into simpler substances by chemical reactions. So as the bond is there between in the compound, chemical bonds are there and they are having two or more type of elements, so the elements can be separated. Like for water, as water is having hydrogen and oxygen, these two elements are there. So to separate hydrogen and oxygen from water, we can use electrolysis process. This you will going to read in higher classes. So electrolysis process is a chemical method, it's not a physical method. So this is a chemical reaction, we can say. By this manner or using this process we can separate the constituent elements from a compound. So for different compound we have to take different this kind of, as electrolysis is a process, so different type of processes are there to separate the constituent elements of a compound. So by chemical reactions the constituent elements of a compound can be easily separated. So this is all for today. Now here you pause the video and you just go through the study material and again come back. We are going to discuss the worksheet, the last worksheet in a previous class, the worksheet which I have given. So that we will be discussing now. And you just bring a pen and paper because we need that while we will be doing the worksheet. So here you pause the video, go through the study material and come back. Okay. See, this was given, this worksheet. So you can write down the answers in your copy. So what is the first question? Mention 3 gaseous elements and write their molecular formula. So gaseous elements, many are there. Hydrogen is there. Its formula will be H2. See, this is the formula of hydrogen, H2. Sorry. So H2 is the formula of hydrogen. Oxygen is another gaseous element. So O2 is the formula, molecular formula. So why we are writing O2? Because O is the symbol of oxygen, and 2, why 2? Because there are 2 oxygen atom in a single oxygen molecule. So O2 will be the formula, molecular formula of oxygen. This 2 represents the number of atom in a single molecule. So hydrogen, oxygen. Next, you can give as nitrogen is the another gaseous element which is present in air. So N2 is the molecular formula. N2 is the molecular formula of nitrogen. So what is the answer? 3 gaseous elements will be hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, and their molecular formula will be H2. Their molecular formula will be H2, O2, and N2. So just side by side, the names you are writing, you write down the names, and side by side you just write down the molecular formula for each of the gaseous elements. Okay. Next, state the difference between the following. So the difference between 2H and H2. So this is very important, and I hope you can do your own. So 2H, by H we are representing one single hydrogen atom. This H is the symbol of element hydrogen. So 2H means 2 atom of hydrogen. So 2H is 2 atoms of hydrogen, and by H2 we are representing one molecule of hydrogen. H2 is the molecular formula of hydrogen. So by this we are representing one molecule of hydrogen. So 2H is 2 hydrogen atom, and H2 is one hydrogen molecule. Next, H2O. By H2O we are representing one water molecule, H2O. This is one water molecule, and by 3H2O we are representing 3 water molecule. If instead of 3 we are writing 4, then 4 water molecule. So whatever number we can write, we are writing before the molecular formula of the compound. So that will be the number of molecules. So H2O is 1 molecule of water, and 3H2O means 3 molecule of water. Next, give 2 examples of each of the following. So I hope you can give your own. Metals, any 2 example you can give: gold gold, iron, silver, copper, any 2 you can give. For non-metals, the gases are there. So oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, chlorine, many are there. So these are the non-metals. Or other than this, and some solid non-metals are also there, like carbon, sulfur, phosphorus. These are also non-metals. Next, metalloids, silicon, germanium, boron, arsenic, antimony, many are there. So any 2 you can write. For noble gases, 6 noble gases are there. So helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, and radon. So any 2 of these 6 you can write. Next, give 3 differences between metals and non-metals. This you can write your own. Metals are generally hard, and whereas non-metals are soft, though some exceptions are there. but this is generally metals are hard and non-metals are soft. Metals are malleable, whereas non-metals are non-malleable. Metals are ductile, non-metals are not ductile. They cannot show the property of this. They are not ductile, we can say. Next, metals are generally a good conductor of heat and electricity, whereas non-metals are bad conductor of heat and electricity, though some exceptions are there. So any three differences you can write. Next, give two examples for each of the following. So non-metals which are solid non-metals you can write as carbon or graphite. You can write sulfur, phosphorus. So these are solid non-metal. Next, metals which are soft. So soft metals, this is another exception. Generally we know metals are hard, but soft metals are there, like sodium, potassium. These are soft. These can be cut through a knife. Next, non-metals which are lustrous, means which are shiny. Generally non-metals are dull, they don't have the shine, metallic shine, but there are some exception where this graphite you can say, which is non-metal, which is a non-metal but it is lustrous. Again you can say iodine is a non-metal but it is lustrous. So iodine and graphite, these two will be lustrous non-metals. Next, elements which are liquid. Liquid elements you can write as metal mercury, which is liquid. Mercury is a metal which is liquid. And another liquid element you can write as bromine. Bromine is a liquid non-metal. Bromine is having reddish color. Next, inert gases. Two example of inert gas. So any two example you can give, you know the examples. So helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon and radon. So any two out of these six you can write as an example. Okay, so this is all for today. Students, just today's worksheet which will be provided along with the study material and all. So you just do that, solve that, try to solve that. I hope you can do this your own. Go through the study material properly and regularly you just do the worksheets. Okay, take care, have a nice day. Thank you.